Hare Bhakti Jana Baba Baba Giri Hare Hare Jacob and then Blessed Jana Joshua and then Blessed Jana Jamuna Kira Jamuna Kira Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Pada Pramsa Parijakshaya Teta Shada Shushimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Pada Pramsa Parijakshaya Teta Shada Shushimad, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Hari Bol. So I see the verse sent in the chat is 41. but I think on the roster it was listed 43. So are we on 41 or 43?
Yesterday we did 49, but we were actually scheduled to do 41. 41, the purport is just one sentence, so you may want to do 42 as well.
Okay, let's see. In that case, I will do 41 and 42. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading from Canto 6, Chapter 9, The Appearance of the Demon Vritasura, texts 41 and 42. So I'll just read through the Sanskrit first, because it is in prose rather than verse. And then I'll just do the word for word for 42. Asmakam tavakanam tatata natanam hare tava charana naliya yugala layanu bada hridaya nigardanam svalinga vivarane natmasat kritanam anukampanuranjita Vishada Ruchira Shishira Smitavalokana Vigalita Madura Mukha Rasamrita Kalaya Chantas Tapam Anagarhasi Shamayitum. Then 42. Ata Bhagavatams Tavas Smabir Akila Jagat Utpati Stiti Laya Nimit Vayamana Divya Maya Vinodasya Sakala Jiva Nikayanam Antar Hridayeshu Bahir Api Chabrama Pratyag Atma Swarupena Pradana Rupena Sayata Deshakala Dehavastana Vishesham Tad Upadanopala Bhakta Yanubhavata Sarva Pratyaya Sakshina Aksha Sharirasya Sakshat Parabrahma Paramatmana Kiyan Iha Varta Vishesho Vigyapaniya Sayad Vispulingadbir Iva Hiranya Retasa. Word for the latter verse. Ata, therefore, Bhagavan, O Lord, Tava, of you, Asmabi, by us, Akila, all, Jagat, of the material world, Utpati, of the creation, Stiti, maintenance, Laya, and annihilation, Nimitayamana, being the cause, Divya Maya, with the spiritual energy, Vinodasya, of you who amuse yourself, Sakala, all, Jiva Nikayanam, of the hordes of living entities, Antahir Daishu, in the cores of the hearts, Bahi Api, externally also, Cha, and Brahma, of impersonal Brahman, or the Absolute Truth, Pratyak Atma, of the Supersoul, Svarupena, by your forms, Pradana Rupena, by your form as the external ingredients, Cha, also, Yata, according to, Deshakala Deha, Avastana, of country, time, body, and position. Vishesham, particulars, tat, of them, upadana, of the material causes, upalam bakataya, by being the exhibitor, anubhavata, witnessing, sarva pratyaya sakshina, the witness of all different activities, akasha sharirasya, the supersoul of the whole universe, sakshat, directly, parabrahmana, the supreme absolute truth, paramatmana, the supersoul, kiyan, of what extent, iha, herein, va, or, ata, vishesha, special necessity, vijnana piya, to be informed, sayat, may be, vispulinga adibi, by the sparks of the fire, eva, like, hiranya retasa, to the original fire. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So this is the translation to verse 41. O Supreme Protector, O Grandfather, O Supreme Pure, O Lord, we are all surrendered souls at your lotus feet. Indeed, our minds are bound to your lotus feet in meditation by chains of love. Now please manifest your incarnation, accepting us as your own eternal servants and devotees. Be pleased with us and sympathetic towards us. By your love-filled glance, with its cool and pleasing smile of sympathy, and by the sweet nectarian words emanating from your beautiful face, free us from the anxiety caused by this Vritasura, who always pains the cores of our hearts. In the purport to 41, Lord Brahma is considered the father of the demigods, but Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, is the father of Brahma, because Brahma took birth from the lotus flower growing from the Lord's abdomen. Text 42 translation. O Lord, as the small sparks of fire cannot possibly perform the actions of the whole fire, we sparks of your lordship do not inform you of the necessities of our lives. You are the complete whole. Therefore, of what do we need to inform you? You know everything because you are the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, the maintainer and the annihilator of the entire universal creation. You are always engaged in your pastimes with your spiritual and material energies, for you are the controller of all of these variegated energies. You exist within all living entities, within the cosmic manifestation and also beyond them. You exist internally as Parabrahman and externally as the ingredients of the material creation. Therefore, although manifested in various stages, at different times and places and in various bodies, you, the personality of Godhead, are the original cause of all causes. Indeed, you are the original element. You are the witness of all activities. But because you are as great as the sky, you are never touched by any of them. You are the witness of everything as Parabrahman and Paramatma. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing is unknown to you. Purport. The Absolute Truth exists in three phases of spiritual understanding: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti, Paramaneti, Bhagavaniti Shabdayate. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of Brahman and Paramatma. Brahman, the impersonal absolute truth, is all-pervading, and Paramatma is locally situated in everyone's heart. But Bhagavan, who is worshipable by the devotees, is the original cause of all causes. A pure devotee is aware that since nothing is unknown to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he need not be informed of a devotee's conveniences and inconveniences. A pure devotee knows that there is no need to ask the absolute truth for any material necessities. Therefore, while informing the Supreme Lord about their distress in being attacked by Vritasura, The demigods apologized for offering prayers for their safety. A neophyte devotee, of course, approaches the Supreme Lord for relief from distress or poverty, or for speculative knowledge of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita mentions four kinds of pious men who begin devotional service to the Lord. One who is distressed, arta, one in need of money, arati, one who is inquisitive, jigyasu, and one who is searching for the absolute truth, jnani. A pure devotee, however, knows that since the Lord is omnipresent and omniscient, there is no need to offer prayers or worship him for one's personal benefit. A pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord without demanding anything. The Lord is present everywhere and knows the necessities of his devotees. Consequently, there is no need to disturb him by asking him for a material benefit. Om Gyanatarmandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshumatamana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadagora Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as the demigods are continuing their prayers, they are hmm, talking about the supreme position of Krishna, of the Lord, and their relative to position towards him. So Krishna, in these verses, is talked about uh, as both being the cause of the mm, of everything, both material and spiritual manifestations, and also, in some sense, identical to them. It is kind of a maxim of the Nyaya school, of the school of Vedic logic, that the cause is found in the effect, and the effect is found in the cause. So, following kind of this line of reasoning or this principle, one could say that the material manifestation is Krishna. But of course, Krishna is also beyond the material manifestation. And much of the reality that we see or have access to is dependent on the level of consciousness that we have reached. I talked a bit last week about how in the Vedic worldview, there are mm, or there's facility for all levels of advancement, all sorts of people, as opposed to some other philosophies where the, I guess you could say, is very restricted in the sense that there's only one way. But in the Vedic uh, system, and the Bhakti system, there are various stages of realization. And this is explained throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam. As you may remember, and towards the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto, there is a discussion of the universal form of the Lord. Uh, of Krishna manifest as the uh, material energy. Or I guess one should say more specifically as the cosmos. And this isn't exactly an incarnation because it isn't exactly personal per se, but it's in some sense a personal way of looking at an impersonal thing. Since the material energy, or at the very least the physical aspects of the material energy, are very impersonal. You know, especially for those of us who have studied it in depth. Uh, there is pretty much nowhere that personality enters into it. You know, it's not like we are looking at our uh, equations and then say, well, the equations say that the electron should move like this, but by its own free will, it decided to go another direction. No, it is completely impersonal. There are, of course, some people who try to edge personality in there a little bit. Uh, the example that comes to mind most readily is that there are some interpretations of quantum mechanics that posit that what causes the wave function to collapse, so that what causes matter to go from quantum weirdness to our more normal classical viewpoint, is actually consciousness, since nobody really knows uh, what exactly happens during a measurement, during this wave function collapse. A priori, consciousness is as good a guess as any. Of course, many people will reject that because, uh, as we understand the world, the Western world in particular, uh, is infected by nirvishesha and shunyavadi and personalism and voidism. So a lot of people reject uh, philosophies or ideas that have consciousness being within fundamental to the universe at all. Uh, but even if one is attracted to this impersonal manifestation, one can, in some ways, still think about it in a personal way. It was described that, when one is, for example, looking at the trees, one can say, oh, this is the hair of the Supreme Lord. When one is looking at the rivers, one could think, oh, this is the blood of the Supreme Lord, and etc. And in that way, even if one is enamored with matter, one can start to make advancements in the direction of Krishna consciousness. And then, of course, if one can go even beyond that, but it's still there's some attraction to understanding how material nature works and all the ins and outs of it. One can, of course, uh, engage oneself in the study of the Sankhya system, as explained by Lord Kapila. Uh, Specifically, of course, Prabhupada uh, always referred to him as Kapila, the son of Devahuti. Of course, we recognize there's also a atheist Kapila who gave a atheistic Sankhya philosophy. But in all these different ways, and if you as you progress throughout Bhagavatam, uh, there are different ways that one can approach Krishna. And even when one reaches the platform of devotional service, of being somehow or other connected to the uh, process of bhakti, there's even advancements to be made within bhakti. Of course, we read in various places that when one starts, one is a neophyte devotee. Uh, it's the mentality. It's basically there's me and there's the Lord. And, maybe my guru as well. But the point is made that at the beginning, for the most part, one does not know how to properly relate with other devotees and other non-devotees. And then, of course, one becomes a madhyamadikari if one advances sufficiently, uh, meaning that one knows how to properly have friendship with devotees, how to ignore or argue against the non-devotees, and how to be merciful to the innocent, and how to give loving service to the Supreme Lord. And then ultimately, of course, there is the Uttama Adhikari, who is even more advanced and sees everybody as part and parcel of Krishna. So, at whatever level of one's advancement, one should always be trying to see how one can serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one can do this in uh, various ways. There are, of course, various activities and also various motivations. Prabhupada explains in the purport that a pure devotee knows that there is nothing to ask of the Lord, in the sense that the Lord Krishna is omniscient, uh, omnipresent, omnipotent, all of the various omnis, uh, meaning that he already knows if the living entity is in distress or not. And if he is uh, needing to undergo that distress to purify him in one way or another, and even how to bring him out of that distress in a way that will help his devotional service. As explained later in the Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, the question is asked that if you look at Lord Shiva, he is a perfect renunciant. Uh, he goes about naked or practically naked, sitting under trees, uh, forming various austerities, and but his devotees are extremely opulent. And uh, if you look at Vishnu, on the other hand, then Vishnu himself is extremely opulent. We read about the descriptions of Vaikuntha, where the Uh, Trees are desire trees. All of the stones are touchstones. And there is a lot of material opulence. But his devotees are very renounced, or externally, they seem to be in great difficulty. So, how do we explain this seeming contradiction or seeming uh, difference? And the answer that is given, or that Krishna gives, is that he is not unintelligent. He gives his devotees opulence, or takes away their opulence, in the proportion that it will help them advance in devotional service. And the pure devotees uh, know this, uh, as you say, completely, so they don't even bother asking for any sort of material uh, desires or opulence or relief or anything connected with matter, because they know Krishna has got it handled. But sometimes the neophyte devotees uh, do approach, as Prabhupada explains, do approach Krishna for relief from distress or poverty or uh, knowledge or any of these material desires. Uh, and of course, even though we recognize that that is not the highest standard, it is in one sense, better to approach Krishna for these things than to waste one's energy, uh, approaching various material controllers for these things, rather than, if one is intent on praying for wealth, for example, then rather than going to Ganesh and Surya and all these things, better just to say, Krishna, if it is your will, then let me have wealth or these material opulences. And uh, Krishna, as he explains in the Bhagavatam, uh, gives one one's desires in a way that one will be purified of that desire. And whether one gets the desire or not, there is the rasa of going to Krishna uh, and taking shelter of him. This idea of both on reverence and servitude are bona fide rasas that we can relate to the uh, Lord in. Of course, a lot of times when we think of, the mellows of devotional service, we think of Nanda and Yashoda or the cowherd boys or the gopis, but also the idea of Krishna, I am your servant, and the servant is completely maintained by the master, and so I will approach you for uh, my maintenance, is also in relationship to the Supreme Lord. And of course, like uh, many forms of devotional service, it can be done in a way that is pure, in that one prays that way to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord, or that can be uh, mixed with genuine material desires. But whether one is full of material desires, has no material desires, or desires liberation, then one is encouraged to somehow or other approach the Supreme Lord. And in doing so, one can make advancements in devotional service. So we should expect at a certain level to have or in a certain, um, from a certain point of view, to have kind of, to recognize, I guess you could say, a very wide range of uh, practices or attitudes as devotional service. Uh, Devotional service, everybody can uh, engage in, but on the other hand, it is not a one size fits all sort of thing. Different people have different relationships with the Lord, and have different attitudes for how they approach devotional service. Of course, we recognize that certain practices uh, are required, in a sense, to make advancement, uh, or I should say, required if one wishes to make advancement. You know, we always chant our rounds, read Srimad Bhagavatam, associate with devotees, etc. Uh, but we also recognize that everybody kind of has their niche in devotional service. Now, the services they like to do, the things they like to talk about, and we should try to come from the neophyte stage to at least the intermediate stage. Of course, the neophyte stage, uh, there's a tendency to think that my way of serving the Lord is the only way to serve Krishna. While when one is a little more uh, purified, one should say, or advanced, or whatever adjective one wishes to use, I was trying to search for a more diplomatic adjective and was unable to find one. Uh, but in any case, then one can recognize that uh, basically what it says in Bhagavatam, that everybody is, and Bhagavad Gita, that everybody is searching after Krishna uh, in their own way. Uh, and if they stick with the process of devotional service, they will advance at a uh, as natural place or natural pace, and not try to. While we should know that what is the pure standard, and not try to kind of have a sour grapes mentality. That is, I can't be at the pure standard, so I will attack the pure standard. We should recognize that, at least speaking for myself, that we might not be at that standard. And so we should operate uh, honestly in our various stages of advancement and not try to artificially be more renounced or more attached or more anything than we are. Uh, and have faith that by acting uh, in such a way, and somehow or other trying to serve, that Krishna will help us advance in our practice of devotional service. So I think that's all that I have. I was a bit rambly there at the end, but hopefully some people got some things out of my class. So if there are any comments or questions or additions, subtractions, multiplications, divisions, thank you for your appreciation yesterday.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for a very nice class, and um, I have a kind of a question. I'm
Mm,
looking for a little more clarification about the um, concept of um, avoidance of trying to um, be more renounced than one actually is, or um, recognizing one's actual level of advancement and not trying to fake it. And
mm,
the reason I'm looking for a little more clarification is that I have seen sometimes that um, particularly younger devotees sometimes will repeat this kind of idea with a view to um, basically support their particular
mm.
conditioned state or their position in Maya.
Right.
So, for example, one may struggle to follow all of the regulative principles strictly, but um, but if you're initiated and you've promised to follow those regulative principles, you are obliged to follow them, whether you um, are actually completely detached from the sinful activities associated with the um, um, neglect of the regulative principles. You nonetheless are obliged to follow. So
Yeah.
one may say that um, I'm not really at the stage of uh, complete detachment from sex life, so therefore I should just I should be myself. I should be honest. I'm attached to sex life, so I should indulge in illicit sex life, and that's okay because at least I'm being honest. Um, and
Yeah, oh, sorry.
there is, the the appropriate response in an instance such as this is that one could then make a move perhaps from the brahmachari ashram to the grihastha ashram. I recognize that I am not qualified to be a brahmachari, so I will be an honest householder, and but I will follow strictly the standards for the household ashram. I'm not completely detached, but I will try to um, uh, restrict my indulgence in sex life to that which is not opposed to religious principles. Anyway, I hope you have gotten a sense for what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to find clarification so that there can be no confusion.
Yeah, so, well, I don't know if I'll be able to reach no confusion, uh, but kind of my view on the matter is that, uh, one has to apply all of these, I guess, principles with intelligence. So yeah, there are certain things that, are, I guess, I guess you just call them straight sinful activities, right? Uh, and this is kind of most basically encoded in the four regulative principles. So that I don't, at least I'm not. I don't know what other people are advocating, but I'm not saying that uh, if you're an initiated devotee and have the urge to eat meat or engage in illicit sex or anything like that, to kind of just say, oh, well, that's just me, and do it. There is still a boundary. But um, there's kind of, I guess, a lot of standards in a certain sense, uh, in between 100% pure devotional service and just out and out sinful life. So, for example, uh, somebody might be really attached to philosophy, right? Or just philosophy, science, intellectual sort of pursuits. I am very attached to these things. Uh, and, I could say that, uh, I'm totally renouncing all these things. I will never read another philosophy book or post or something again because it's all just harmy nonsense. But the question is then, can I actually maintain that standard? Or will, this kind of desire drive me to, I don't know, waste time looking at social media or YouTube or something? Uh, or will just kind of drive me crazy? Uh, there's this conversation talking about Van Ashram, where one of Prabhupada's disciples, uh, and Prabhupada agrees that, one cannot practice Krishna consciousness unless one's mind is peaceful. And of course, we do have examples of people practicing with unpeaceful minds because there's no material impediment. But in a general case, one should, as long as one is not being grossly sinful, one should act in such a way that one can peaceably make advancement in devotional service. And as you kind of alluded to or pointed out, it also depends on the stage of life uh, one is in. This kind of repression, in a certain sense, you could call it, uh, is appropriate for brahmachari life. Not just repression of sex desire, but general repression of a wide range of material desires. Uh, but, if one, after several years or a certain amount of time of ashram or brahmachari life, finds that one still has these things, whether that's desire for money or for the association of women or a position in society, one can peaceably take the uh, grihastha ashram. And the way that one acts is dependent on one's Varna and one's ashram. You know, that's the whole idea behind Varna ashram. Example comes to mind where, one time Prabhupada saw, I can't remember who it was, but it was one of his disciples who was running for office. And, he didn't have a sika and a shaved head and was wearing a dhoti. He was wearing a suit and, grew out a more normal haircut. Prabhupada said, this is very nice, an American Krishna. But Prabhupada also said to a sannyasi disciple who was testifying in court, you don't wear a suit, you go in dhoti with your danda and tell them how horrible material life is and how wicked their society is. He actually used stronger words than that, but I won't repeat it in mixed company. Uh, so it's not kind of like a one size fits all thing. There is a kind of boundary on the behavior, uh, both in general as far as what is considered sinful activity, and then also depending on what stage one is in life. And even with like grossly sinful activities, I would say, also they should people who are engaging in those things should practice Krishna consciousness, but maybe, wait for initiation until you can follow those things. There's no material impediment. So hopefully, clear things up and not added to the confusion. We have a few more minutes, and Dean Polika has had her hand raised for a little bit, so we should give her the chance to speak.
Hi, Bo. Just a quick one. Whenever you're explaining how Krishna or how devotees approach Krishna in prayer, I was wondering how should we pray for something that we see as a facility to improve our service or the service, like I don't know, in the context here, I'll just give a kind of a silly example, but let's say for the kitchen, like, man, what would really make things nicer is if we had an industrial mixer. So, like, how this is just kind of a, yeah, simple example, but how would one approach Krishna with that desire or that prayer?
Uh, I'm not sure exactly what the question is. One just,
Like,
goes before.
if you're praying for something that you're you're seeing as something very beneficial for Krishna service, but also you don't want to go to him as like he's Santa Claus, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you could just, you can, approach him and say, I want these things for your service. Uh, if it's your will, then, uh, can we please have these things? Or can we please obtain these things somehow? Well, I think the big difference in the attitude is we don't necessarily go to Krishna saying, Krishna, give me these things or I'll stop serving you. It's more, Krishna, I will serve you whether or not you give me these things. But, I have these desires. And whether that's desires for things for service, uh, or, even at the neophyte stage, material desires, that are not like way out there. We don't go to Krishna asking for a good chicken dinner. Um, but, we don't say, Krishna, give me a very nice wife or very nice husband, or, I will go leave and, I don't know, go start going to bars and find a husband there. You say, no, Krishna, if it's your will, give me uh, think it would be best for my service to have this situation. So, uh, if it is pleasing to you, please help facilitate. So that I answer your question, or
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Uh, I'm not sure if we're opening on time or not. I hear bells, but no conch. Tarka Prabhu, did uh my, I guess, ramblings shed any light or just shed further darkness in response to your question?
No, that was helpful. You know, I bring this up because practically in ISKCON, we see that sometimes devotees will use certain concepts or statements to rationalize Maya,
Yeah,
and you'd be surprised by some of
I
the
agree.
things
I've
that
noticed the
happen.
same thing.
You know,
Yeah,
sometimes
I've noticed the
shocking,
same thing. So,
yeah, shocking things sometimes happen.
mhm.
The Because Maya is very powerful, and even devotees who might regard themselves as sincere become somehow sidetracked or distracted in extraordinary ways and go off on wild tangents that are just complete Maya, but they somehow rationalized the Maya to um, believe that it's actually somehow Krishna conscious. And the way in which it happens is incredible. I could tell you stories about, you know, the extraordinary extent to which people can become illusioned. And I'm talking about the devotees.
Yeah.
Maya is just incredibly powerful. Um, you know, it happens sometimes, for example, that devotees find somehow in Srila Prabhupada's words and the words of Shastra, they find justification for um, watching internet porn, and that
Hmm.
somehow or other it is Krishna conscious activity. That's an
I
extreme
understand.
example, but Maya is so powerful that sometimes one can rationalize things to even an extraordinary extent such as that. And so it's important to be very, very clear and to help people to understand things to the extent that they cannot so easily be victimized by that process of rationalization. Anyway, we are out of time, so I thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. We are out of time. So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. my country, there's all the time. So it's like help the actual world. Houses, quality, which is huge, you know, so yeah, 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 I would be with you. It's you know, once says that there is policy, right? So let's call it this. Yeah, it is because you know, given that the one two reasons I guess in this tradition, whereas I don't go live and fair only. Yeah. Well, I figured that I could say this not the right. Yeah, no common percentages. Yeah. Yeah. Very concept of random Jesus. Others came from Europe. Because they still living in Europe. Yeah. Including such a person.